Hi there, Striker. After your body died, do you believe that you will live again? On today's topic we are going to tackle about the reincarnation, also known as rebirth or transmigration, is the philosophical or religious concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new life in a different physical form or body after biological death. Resurrection is a similar process hypothesized by some religions, in which a soul comes back to life in the same body. In most beliefs involving reincarnation, the soul is seen as immortal and the only thing that becomes perishable is the body. Upon death, the soul becomes transmigrated into a new infant, or animal, to live again. The term transmigration means passing of soul from one body to another after death. The word reincarnation derives from a term that literally means entering the flesh again. Reincarnation refers to the belief that an aspect of every human being, or all living beings in some cultures, continues to exist after death. This aspect may be the soul or mind or consciousness or something transcendent which is reborn in an interconnected cycle of existence. The transmigration belief varies by culture, and is envisioned to be in the form of a newly born human being, or animal, or plant, or spirit, or as a being in some other non-human realm of existence. An alternative term is transmigration, implying migration from one life, body, to another. The term has been used by modern philosophers such as Kurt Gödel and has entered the English language. The Greek equivalent to reincarnation, metempsychosis, derives from meta, change, and empsychon, to put a soul into, a term attributed to Pythagoras. Another Greek term sometimes used synonymously is palingenesis. Being born again. Rebirth is a key concept found in major Indian religions, and discussed using various terms. Reincarnation, or rebirth, transmigration is discussed in the ancient Sanskrit texts of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, with many alternate terms such as these religions believe that this reincarnation is cyclic and an endless samsara, unless one gains spiritual insights that ends this cycle leading to liberation. The reincarnation concept is considered in Indian religions as a step that starts each cycle of aimless drifting, wandering or mundane existence, but one that is an opportunity to seek spiritual liberation through ethical living and a variety of meditative, yogic marga, or other spiritual practices. They consider the release from the cycle of reincarnations as the ultimate spiritual goal, and call the liberation by terms such as moksha, nirvana and mukti. However, the Buddhist, Hindu and Jain traditions have differed, since ancient times, in their assumptions and in their details on what reincarnates, how reincarnation occurs and what leads to liberation. Neshamot is the concept of reincarnation in Kabbalistic Judaism found in much Yiddish literature among Ashkenazi Jews, means cycle, and Neshamot is souls. Kabbalistic reincarnation says that humans reincarnate only to humans unless God chooses. The origins of the notion of reincarnation are obscure. Discussion of the subject appears in the philosophical traditions of India. The Greek pre-Socratics discussed reincarnation, and the Celtic Druids are also reported to have taught a doctrine of reincarnation. The Pythagorean doctrine prevails among the Gauls, teaching that the souls of men are immortal, and that after a fixed number of years they will enter into another body. Julius Caesar recorded that the Druids of Gaul, Britain and Ireland had metempsychosis as one of their core doctrines. The principal point of their doctrine is that the soul does not die and that after death it passes from one body into another. The main object of all education is, in their opinion, to imbue their scholars with a firm belief in the indestructibility of the human soul, which, according to their belief, merely passes at death, from one tenement to another, for by such doctrine alone, they say, which robs death of all its terrors, can the highest form of human courage be developed. Diodorus also recorded the Gaul belief that human souls were immortal, and that after a prescribed number of years they would commence upon a new life in another body. He added that Gauls had the custom of casting letters to their deceased, upon the funeral pyres, through which the dead would be able to read them. Valerius Maximus also recounted they had the custom of lending sums of money to each other which would are repayable in the next world. This was mentioned by Pomponius Mela, who also recorded Gauls buried or burnt with them things they would need in a next life, to the point some would jump into the funeral piles of their relatives in order to cohabite in the new life with them. The period between death and rebirth lasts 49 days and involves 3 bardos. The first is the moment of death itself. The consciousness of the newly deceased becomes aware of and accepts the fact that it has recently died, and it reflects upon its past life evidence that suggest the reality of reincarnation worldwide. Children can be found who reported that they have memories of a previous life. More than 2,500 cases have been studied and their specifications have been published and preserved in the archives of the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, United States. Many of those children come from countries where the majority of the inhabitants believe in reincarnation, but others come from countries with different cultures and religions that reject it. In many cases, the revelations of the children have been verified and have corresponded to a particular individual, already dead. A good number of these children have marks and birth defects corresponding to wounds on the body of his previous personality. Many have behaviors related to their claims to their former life, phobias, philias, and attachments. Others seem to recognize people and places of his supposed previous life, and some of their assertions have been made under controlled conditions. The hypothesis of reincarnation is controversial. We can never say that it does not occur, or will obtain conclusive evidence that it happens. The cases that have been described so far, isolated or combined, do not provide irrefutable proof of reincarnation, but they supply evidence that suggests its reality. We spend our few minutes talking about a controversial theory, about living and dying and living again, reincarnation. It's long been a central tenet of certain spiritual traditions, but it's not an experience that's been rigorously tested by many scientists. Jim Tucker. He's a professor of psychiatry and neurobehavioral sciences at the University of Virginia, and he is doing exactly that, testing claims of reincarnation, especially those made by children, to talk about the science behind this phenomenon. We've now studied over 2,500 cases of children who report memories of past lives. And what we try to do is to determine exactly what they have said and what's happened, and then see if it matches the life of somebody who lived and died before. Once I got involved, I began to focus on, and I think these cases contribute to the body of evidence that consciousness, at least, in certain circumstances, can survive the death of the body. That life after death isn't necessarily just a fantasy or something to be considered on faith, but it can also be approached in an analytic way, and the idea can be judged on its merits. There is more than just the physical reality. I do think it's quite likely that if we do survive, that there's not just one experience that everyone has, that the afterlife may be as varied as life in this world, said by Jim Tucker. And that's all for today. Thanks so much.